So TNA Impact was a taped show from Indiana, Pennsylvania. And the show starts off with Hogan. Hogan comes to the ring and he immediately calls out Sting to discuss last week's standoff between the two. So Sting comes out and Hogan goes into blah mode about all of his problems, causing him to push people away, and that his biggest mistake was pushing Sting away. So Hogan apologizes to Sting and they shake hands. Then Hogan says that he and Sting should have been working together the entire time in the battle against Aces and Eights. Sting tells Hogan that he wants to put together a team to go up against Aces and Eights in a 6-man tag team match next week. And basically Hogan is fine with that. But then he says that he needs to find a challenger who will face Bully Ray at Slammiversary for the World Heavyweight Championship. So then Matt Morgan comes out and immediately starts to complain about Hogan giving Sting the title shot against Bully Ray. But Hogan cuts him off and says that the title shot is going to be earned and not handed out. So then Hogan says that Matt Morgan and Sting will meet in the main event, and the winner will go on to Slammiversary to challenge Bully Ray for the World Heavyweight Championship. Okay. Basically what this is typical Hogan subliminal bullshit. I mean, let's be honest. Saying Sting has to earn a title shot that he pretty much already had anyway. But, you know, those of you all who are logical about this, you pretty much know that this is exactly what that was. So then we have a video segment with Chris Sabin. And Sabin talks about his rehabilitation from the 2 torn ACLs. So basically this is TNA continuing the strong push of Sabin. Now some people have said that the push is way too early, that, you know, they should allow him to, you know, reestablish himself before pushing him hard. I think the timing is fine. I think the whole point of him coming back from, you know, being out for, you know, 2 years for the most part, I get why TNA is putting a strong push behind him, because they kind of want to sensationalize, you know, his particular scenario a little bit. I get it, and I don't think it's too early. So then Kurt Angle is backstage talking about a challenge that he has made to one of the members of Aces and Eights for a match, obviously, that's going to happen during the show. And then we have our X Division qualifying match. The participants are Sanjay Dutt, Zema Ion, and of course Chris Sabin. It was a good match. Good match. Once again, we saw the X-Cam in use, and once again we saw why they need to get rid of this thing. Now the first 2 times that they cut to the X-Cam was when the referee delivered a pin count. And you saw that when the referee delivered that pin count, his head obviously is going to move, you know, in an up and down motion. which means the camera is going to move along with his head, and that causes that jerky motion again. And it's just becomes unsettling when you have to continuously see that. And you knew Sabin was going to win this match. No kidding. And he wins this match by executing a variation of the Michinoku driver. Instead of Sabin lifting Ion straight up, he takes Ion's right leg and crosses it over his right arm, Sabin's right arm. And then he lifts Ion by his left leg, and then he executes the maneuver. So it was a very interesting variation, well executed. And Sabin wins the match. And now he goes on to the X Division Championship match against the X Division champion Kenny King and Petey Williams. Now originally I thought that this would be a match that you would save until Slammiversary. But it seems that TNA has given up on Kenny King. I mean, the only time we see him is when he's defending the X Division title. And we just don't hear from him anymore. I mean, the last time Kenny King spoke, he was talking about Jeff Hardy being carried out on a stretcher and put in an ambulance. I mean, TNA has given Sabin this incredible push, so they might as well just give the title to him now. Now, there's another scenario to this. If TNA still wanted to have this match at Slammiversary, they could either do one of two things. They could either delay the X Division match schedule until the pay-per-view, or you could maintain the schedule, but then it becomes a little complicated. In the X Division Championship match, Sabin would have to be pinned or made to submit. Then he would go back to the qualifying match and then win that match again, which would put him back in the next title match, which could be held at Slammiversary. Now, wrestling is supposed to be simple. It's not supposed to be that complicated. So, TNA should just let Sabin win the title. You know, I think the next X Division, it's been every 2 weeks there's been an X Division match. So, the May 16th episode of Impact will be the X Division Championship match according to how they've been scheduling these matches. So, just give Sabin the title. What is the point? So then we had Robbie E and Mr. Duh backstage. Insert snoring noise. So then we have Aces and Eights backstage. And Bully Ray talks about Kurt Angle being a pain in the ass and he wants Angle taken out. Bully Ray wants to know who's going to be the one to do it. Wes Briscoe says he'll do it. But then Garrett Bischoff says it should be him. However, D'Lo Brown says that since he was the integral part responsible for Aces and Eights' rise to power in TNA, he should be the one to face Angle. So then Bully Ray repeatedly questions D'Lo Brown if he is the one that's going to get the job done. He even makes D'Lo swear on his colors. So now D'Lo Brown's colors are on the line in this match against Kurt Angle. So it adds a little intrigue to this match. So then we had a handicap match. Rob Terry against Robbie E, Mr. Duh, and Joey Ryan. Rob Terry wins over 3 glorified jobbers. I mean, what more do I, what else do I need to say about this? It is time to move Rob Terry on to a new program. But why do I feel that TNA is going to continue this? Just move Rob Terry along, please. So then we have Robert Roode and Austin Aries come to the ring. Roode gets on the mic and he talks about the fact that Bad Influence's idea of reforming Fortune was basically a ruse to prevent him and Aries from winning the World Tag Team Championship. And then Aries gets on the mic and says that even though he and Roode don't like each other, they have a common goal, and that's to win championships. And he goes on to say that they are a team of world champions, and that's something that Christopher Dance and Kazarian wouldn't know anything about. So then Bad Influence comes to the ring. And the two teams have another verbal exchange. And this verbal exchange was so much better this time than last time, because the focus of the conversation stayed on the subject, the World Tag Team Championship. I mean, last time it was about Roode and Aries having to match the humor of Bad Influence and trying to be something that they shouldn't be. But with this conversation, Roode and Aries were more serious this time, and they stayed on the subject of the World Tag Team Championship. Bad Influence still maintained their comedic slant, but they stayed on the subject, the World Tag Team Championship. This is what happens when you allow Roode and Aries to be more serious-minded. It allows two completely different heel dynamics to mesh much better. And as a result of that, the teams have a more intriguing engagement with each other. See what happens, TNA, when you allow Roode and Aries to be more serious? Now, are you going to allow them to stay that way? Now, Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez come out during the conversation, and for some strange reason, Chavo announces that there's going to be a special referee for a number one contenders match that will take place next week for the World Tag Team Championship between Bad Influence and Roode and Aries. And this special referee is James Storm. Now let me backtrack to this number one contenders match for the World Tag Team Championship. Bad Influence against Robert Roode and Austin Aries. Now I think that TNA should have waited until Slammiversary for these two teams to meet for the first time. See, there are two anticipation cornerstones of a wrestling pay-per-view. You have your gimmick matches that end programs, and you have first-time meetings between two particular entities. Having Bad Influence and Rude and Aries meet for the first time at the pay-per-view would have maintained the intangible of a first-time anticipation. Now, yes, the lack of tag teams in TNA has caused this scenario, but I felt that since TNA has made it this far without having these two teams meeting, they at least could have made it another month to Slammiversary. However, since this match next week is a #1 contenders match and not a match for the belts, I can let it go some. Now, why is there a special referee needed for this match? Please explain. And please explain further why James Storm has to be that special referee. Storm goes from the best storyline in TNA with AJ Styles to this. It seems that when TNA needs a certain job done, James Storm is their man. Well, we need somebody to squash Mr. Duh for no reason. Get James on the phone. Velvet Sky needs a male partner to go up against Tara and Mr. Duh. Has anyone seen James? We need a special referee for no reason for a #1 contendership match for the World Tag Team Championship. Hey James, could you come over here for a moment? He does not deserve this. So Sting is backstage, and he asks Kurt Angle if he is ready for his match against D'Lo Brown. And then Sting wants to talk to Angle privately, and it's likely about Angle joining him for the 6-man tag team match next week against 3 members of Aces and Eights. So then we see Tara and Gail Kim, and they're bitching about all the run that Taryn Terrell has been getting. And the segment seemed to hint at some type of dissension between the two, and I don't understand why you would do that. And then we see Chris Sabin, and he's basically giving comments following the X Division match that he won, and basically it's just more of the continued push, that we've been seeing. And like I said earlier, just put the belt on him. The next X Division title match, just put the belt on him. So then we had Kurt Angle versus D'Lo Brown. And before the match, D'Lo Brown grabs the mic and says to Angle that he can't just beat him, he has to humiliate him. So D'Lo Brown makes the match an I Quit match. And the match starts, and then you see members of Aces and Eights, hovering just outside of the ringside area. This was a better match than expected. I think D'Lo Brown exceeded farther than a lot of people thought he would do. And we see Angle do his barrage of suplexes with 6 straight Germans. So basically the match ends. D'Lo Brown is attempting to execute a power bomb on Angle. As he lifts Angle up, Angle slips out and does a sunset flip. and then he is able to flip over and apply the ankle lock to D'Lo Brown. Now D'Lo Brown taps out, but since he has to say "I quit," the match continues, and eventually D'Lo Brown quits. He does say the words, and Kurt Angle wins the match. And once again, D'Lo Brown wasn't bad. Now that doesn't mean I want to see him regularly or semi-regularly in the ring, whether it be on TV or at a pay-per-view. But he was fine. So then Christy Hemme is interviewing Kurt Angle, and Angle says he wants to talk to AJ Styles. So AJ Styles comes out, and Angle tells him that going with aces and eights for Styles would be the easy way out. And then Angle acknowledges that Styles is the reason why he came to TNA, and then Angle talks about, you know, the matches that they had together, and he wants AJ Styles to join him and Sting against Aces and Eights for the 6-man tag team match next week. And then he says to Styles that either he is with them or he is not, and if he is not, then there's going to be problems. And he wants an answer next week. What is everything with next week with AJ Styles? I mean, wouldn't you want an answer this week, so that in case he says no, you can still get another partner, but yet you want to wait till next week for the possibility of him saying no, I'm not going to do it. Everything with AJ Styles is, I want an answer next week. So then we have Matt Morgan backstage, and he's talking about his match against Sting. This was a pretty good promo from Morgan. I mean, you saw the intensity, his frustrations dealing with Hogan's bullshit, and I thought it was a really good promo from Morgan. And it further drives the anticipation for the main event. So then we had the women's tag team match. Gail Kim and Tara against Taryn Terrell and Mickie James. Decent match. Tara once again without Mr. Duh, and she just seems to be so much more relaxed and more comfortable just being herself and doing her own heel thing instead of being something that she's not. And it's really good to see that from her. Taryn Terrell is still terrible in the ring, because one little snap suplex is not going to be enough for you, honey. ODB is still the referee, quote unquote. The match ends in this sequence. Gail goes for a clothesline, and this is when all 4 women are all in the ring at the same time. Gail goes for a clothesline on Mickie James. Mickie James ducks. She kicks Gail in the midsection, which sends Gail outside of the ring. And then I think Tara throws an elbow, which knocks Mickie James down to the mat. And then Taryn Terrell comes up from behind on Tara and executes her incredibly complex finisher, the roll-up. Gets the 3 count. And your winners of your match, Taryn Terrell and Mickie James. So then Taryn Terrell and Mickie James have their hands raised by ODB, and then Gail, Kim, and Tara attack them from behind. Mickie James and Tara end up outside of the ring. They're brawling on the ramp, and ODB's trying to break it up, and the action moves toward the back. Meanwhile, inside the ring, Gail is pounding away at Taryn Terrell, bashing her head down on the mat, and then she picks her up and throws a forearm. And then Gail Kim gives her the Eat defeat. And Taryn sold it pretty well. So then Gail throws Taryn Terrell into the corner, and then she goes outside the ring and she pulls Taryn's legs toward the ring post and wraps her legs around it. And then Gail executes a figure 4 leg lock around the ring post. Awesome. I am not a Gail Kim mark, but when she shines, she shines. A lot of people crap all over this chick, but without her, the TNA women's division would be much worse than it already is. And you can't deny that, like her or not. And then eventually ODB comes back and they breaks it up. Gail Kim releases the hold and she leaves. Now, one thing we didn't see the further progression of Mickie James toward her heel turn. We didn't see any further tinges. I mean, they could have done something. Here's one thing they could have done. After Mickie James was finished brawling with Tara, she could have walked back to the ring, walked over to where Taryn Terrell was, and she could have just stared at her. Not staring as if to allow the referees to attend to her to see if she's alright, but give her this cold stare and then go over and help her toward the back. Because see, that would have been the perfect moment to start building a psychological foundation for an eventual program down the road between these two. Because if Mickie James goes on to beat Velvet Sky for the Women's Championship, who will Mickie James' eventual opponent be? Taryn Terrell. So why not start building that foundation now by doing that particular scenario that I just mentioned? It further pushes Mickie James toward that heel turn, and it establishes a future program between those two. So then we see Aces Nate's backstage, and Bully Ray is pissed that D'Lo Brown said I quit to Kurt Angle, and basically Bully Ray says that he'll deal with D'Lo Brown next week. And then we see a promo for the 6-man tag team match. It'll be Bully Ray, Devon, and Mr. Anderson against Sting, Kurt Angle, and question marks. Possibly filled with AJ Styles, maybe not. And then we have the main event. Matt Morgan versus Sting. The winner will receive a title shot against Bully Ray at Slammiversary for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, I will leave it to others to determine the entertainment value of the match. I just want to get to the sad, pathetic part of all of this. Let's go to the part of the match where Morgan delivered the carbon footprint on Sting. Morgan goes for the pin. Sting kicks out. So then Morgan attempts to deliver another carbon footprint. Sting is up against the ring post on the other side of the ring. Morgan charges. Sting moves out of the way. And Morgan jams his foot. And it looks like he's injured his knee. So Sting kicks his knee and Morgan goes down. And then Sting turns him over and applies a quarter-ass Scorpion Deathlock. Not half-ass, quarter-ass Scorpion Deathlock. Now, Morgan is pretty close to the ropes, to the left of him. And he turns his body toward the ropes. And with his reach, Morgan is well within range of grabbing that bottom rope. But he doesn't. Instead, Morgan turns his body away from the ropes and decides to go for the ropes in front of him, which are much farther away. So Morgan crawls toward those ropes, dragging Sting with him, exerting energy, and he grabs the ropes. But Sting pulls him back to the middle of the ring and reapplies the quarter-ass Scorpion Deathlock. And Morgan passes out. Oh, no. He didn't tap out. He passed out. Sting wins. And Sting will face Bully Ray at Slammiversary for the World Heavyweight Championship. And Aces and Eights come to the ring. Bully Ray yells at Sting. Morgan is still passed out. And the show ends. Now, some people have said that Sting getting the title shot at Slammiversary is Dixie Carter's doing. And I would say, yeah, I agree. It is Dixie Carter's doing. It's Dixie Carter's doing with her strings being pulled. It's Dixie Carter's doing as she continues to consume the snake oil. It's Dixie Carter's doing as she continues to be brainwashed. So you're right. Creatively, it is Dixie Carter's doing. Because psychologically, it's Hogan's doing. I'm TazMart 2002, and that was my TNA Impact Analysis for May 2nd, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I would really appreciate it. I'm now an administrator on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, so if you're listening to me there, you can leave a comment below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. You have any questions about TNA or wrestling in general, you can get at me on Twitter, TazMark2002, and if your comments exceed the 140, send me an email, tazmark2002@gmail.com. It was a decent show. Next week we have the 6-man tag team match. Bully Ray, Devon, Mr. Anderson against Kurt Angle, Sting, and AJ Styles, maybe not AJ Styles. And the #1 contendership match for the World Tag Team Championship. Bad Influence against Robert Roode and Austin Aries. Now let me add another layer to what I have referred to as the plan. TNA Creative are already discussing the main event for Bound for Glory. That main event being Bully Ray defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Hogan. Now I know that some of you are holding on for AJ Styles to be the person that gets that title shot at Bound for Glory. Well, your grasp has been loosened a little bit, but keep holding on. But eventually, what Hogan wants, Hogan takes, because he is allowed to take. This is what he has been wanting. This is what he, for now, appears to be getting. Will TNA be the one regretting? I'm TazMark2002, gone.